I'm going to go over and interpret one of the major end time prophecies of the Old Testament from the prophet Ezekiel. It's in Ezekiel chapter 38-39, describes the battle of Gog and Magog against Israel, and who those nations are, who their alliances are that join with them when they march against Israel, what will happen. And first, though, an important piece to understanding this and much of the Old Testament, especially prophecy, is understanding the lineage of Noah. Okay, where Noah's sons and grandsons and great-grandsons and eventually descendants would migrate to and populate on the earth after the flood. The humans are in what I believe to be Mesopotamia by the Persian Gulf. And then the flood happens, and Noah's Ark winds up on Mount Ararat, which is north of the Mesopotamia, above the Tigris and Euphrates River. And then I believe that the sons came back down with their descendants eventually and repopulated Mesopotamia, where eventually the descendants of Noah would build, and at this point they all speak the same language, they would build the Tower of Babel, right, which is in Mesopotamia, at which point the great-great-great-grandson Peleg, whose name means the nations will be divided, when he's alive, whatever time that is, that's when they build the Tower of Babel, and God splits up and sends the tribes out into the world. So the descendants then travel out into the world and populate the various regions of the Asia Minor and the Middle East and ultimately Europe, Africa, and going up into Russia. So it's important to understand where these descendants of Noah traveled to and to know their names, because just like today, when our cities are often named after our founders, like for example Washington, George Washington, the United States capital is Washington. Like Alexandria is named after Alexander the Great, right? So that concept still applies today, but for some reason when it comes to the Old Testament and the prophets are prophesying about the various tribes of people in the nations, it's difficult to put that concept into study.